In the meantime, feel free to grab a pen and paper to take notes. Perfect, yep. There we go. All right, so as I mentioned, feel free to take some notes because I'm going to be covering a lot of ground. I'm going to be covering a lot of things that I can guarantee you other people will ask you some point in life, especially if you're ever talking about food, juice, sugar. So feel free to take notes, or I could send you these slides afterwards. So is sugar that bad? Sugar is a type of carb that can be found in a lot of different kinds of foods. Its most concentrated form is what we know is used in a lot of things, such as cakes and candies, and they're white sugar. It's white sugar. It's a crystallized substance. And regardless of where sugar comes from, when we eat it, our body breaks it down into glucose, which is used for energy. So you eat something, whether it's a cupcake or a piece of fruit, your body breaks it down into glucose and then use it for energy. So whether it's coming from a donut or from a fruit, your body's going to use it the same way, and your body and brain prefers using glucose as its main source of fuel. So if we know this, why is it bad, right? Why does sugar have a bad rap? So this is where things get a little bit tricky. There's two types of sugar. There's complex sugar, complex carbs, or you can say complex sugar, and then there's simple carbs. So complex carbs, as the name suggests, is complex. So our body takes a longer time to break it down in our body in comparison to simple carbs, which are simple. And the body doesn't really have to do that much work for it to break down. And so simple carbs are more taxing on our pancreas because literally we just eat it. It's just sugar. It doesn't have any fiber. Our pancreas will overwork itself to break it down because it's just sugar, not combined with anything else. It can lead to excess weight gain, cancer, diabetes, and hypertension. And then complex carbs have sugar, but it also has nutrients and vitamins and minerals. So to think of it in a more simpler way, complex carbs are carbs coming from your fruits and vegetables, right? So you have an apple, and we know apples have vitamins and minerals and fiber, the skin and nutrients, all of that. And so your body has to break all of that down in comparison to if you just took a tablespoon or a teaspoon of sugar. Your body doesn't have to do a lot of work for it to break down. So that's the difference. My iPad died, so we're just gonna wing it. So what about fruit? So you don't have to avoid it all entirely, right? A lot of people say, oh, I'm not gonna eat fruit, it has too much sugar. As I just mentioned, fruit has fiber and nutrients and vitamins and minerals. So you can pull up the rest of the tips here. And so fruit is packed with a bunch of powerful ingredients. Not only will it give us energy, but it helps our brain to function. It helps us to absorb other nutrients in our bodies when we eat certain foods together. And so in comparison to just having a teaspoon of sugar, fruit has sugar, but it also has all of these powerful components that help our body to slowly break down the sugar and give us a longer fuel or source of energy throughout the day. And there's one slight difference that I wanted to mention between juices and smoothies. They are different. So a lot of people, juice at home, and if you juice, you may realize that you get rid of the roughage, and it's just like a thin liquid. But that roughage is where the fiber is. And so when, for example, my clients might ask me, should I juice or should I do smoothies? I am a nutritionist where I don't label certain foods or as good food or bad foods. I have this saying that's basically you should eat more of certain things and less of other things, because I'm not really into the what would you call it? The idea of dieting, because when we diet, it usually causes us to revert and then all of that. So as it relates to juicing and smoothies, I always say have more smoothies and less of juices, simply because smoothies have fiber that is going to have to be broken down by our body, and then our body will have a longer or sustained energy in comparison to the juices where you got rid of that roughage. Your body has to do less work for it to break it down. It just goes straight into your body, if that makes sense. All right, so moving along. So fruit is good, but just keep that in mind for juices and smoothies. You can't have juices, but if you had to choose smoothies. So we're gonna move to the next slide. Hopefully I'm not missing anything because I'm winging it because my iPad died. All right, so what about natural sugar, like coconut sugar, honey, maple syrup? So our body will break it down in the same way and use it the same way. So they might have some medicinal benefits, like we know honey can have antioxidants in there, antibacterial, but it's still an extracted source, right? Honey is extracted from the honeycomb. The same thing for like agave is extracted from a plant. So it's still considered a simple sugar. So our body's gonna use it the same way. You might get some benefits, but again, you wanna, use it in moderation or substitute for other ingredients, which I'll name towards the end in our top 10 tips that you can use to reduce your sugar intake. So again, it's not bad, but too much of it, as this verse says that I found, can be a little bit taxing on our body. So just use it in moderation. So moving along, what about stevia, artificial sweetener, sweet and low? So again, this is a controversial topic because scientists are still looking into it. So scientists like to do something where they will say, Matthew, Maisha, Sharon, we want you to use sweet and low for 3 months, and we're gonna see how it reacts in your body, right? So this is still being studied, but what they have found so far from doing tests like that is that it hasn't been linked to any diseases like diabetes, hypertension, or high blood pressure. Most of these sweeteners have zero calories, so they won't lead to weight gain. But the thing with sweeteners is that it might trick your brain. So if you're sincerely and genuinely trying to cut back on your sugar intake, consuming these artificial sweeteners will still trigger that same pleasure center in your brain that would be triggered if you had regular sugar, right? It's sweet, so you feel that pleasure from having it, so it might not, in the long term, curb your craving for sugar if that is what your goal is. So again, there are some benefits, but if you are really trying to change your taste buds over time, which you can do, this might not help you in that area necessarily because it's still triggering that same pleasure center in your brain. So moving along, and I found this beautiful verse that goes with that too. It says, all things are lawful for me, but not all things are helpful. Right, so all things are lawful for me, but I may not be enslaved by anything. So again, this does have some benefits, but it might not be helpful in the long term. All right, so moving ahead. So here are the top 10 tips. So these are tips that you can literally apply today to reduce how much sugar you consume. All right, so the first one is you can decrease the amount of sugar in recipes. So I don't know how many of you find a recipe online. It might call for 1 cup of sugar, half cup, what have you. You can usually reduce the amount of sugar in certain recipes and you won't notice any differences, right? So that's one thing that you can do. That's super easy. Number 2 is use substitute ingredients. So sometimes like in pancakes, sometimes it might call for, like, again, a certain amount of sugar. You can use a mashed banana. I've done this before. It has to be like a little bit almost overripe to get that sweetness. You can do that. You can use applesauce in place of syrup. I've seen some people do this. Also making your own stew. So I like to use mixed berries, put it on the stove and stew it down and make my own syrup instead of using maple syrup sometimes. So those are just little tricks you can try to experiment with and do to reduce your sugar intake. Another thing is spices. So a lot of people don't consider adding flavor from spices to their foods when they're making something. So If you're making hot chocolate or coffee, you can use things like cinnamon or nutmeg or pumpkin spice, or even certain extracts like vanilla extract, lemon extract, almond extract. A lot of those things give flavor, they smell really good, and it will still satisfy your taste buds and give you a kick in whatever you're making as well. Another tip is to your sugar cravings, and this is a really, really, really big one. Your sugar cravings can often be mistaken for thirst or dehydration. I cannot stress this enough. I have worked with so much people who think that they are hungry and they are actually dehydrated. And this is because our brain is 60% water, our body is 60 to 70% water, and a lot of times people they have a headache. That's like the most common one. They have a headache and they're like, I need to eat something. And I tell them, the next time you feel that way, drink some water and wait 5 minutes, literally 5 to 10 minutes, and see how you feel. And I kid you not, this usually works most of the time. They drink some water and they feel so much better because they're dehydrated. And most people aren't drinking enough water, or they're kind of like, they fluctuate. Like one day they drink the amount they should, and then tomorrow they're not, and the next day they are. And so oftentimes when you have a sugar craving or you're hungry, it can also often be a sign of dehydration or thirst. So if you have a craving, try to drink some juice or drink some water first and see how you feel. And then that leads me to the next tip. If you're not really into water, try flavoring it. Some people add fruits or cucumbers or mint or lemon in the water, and this does really help. Well, it does help. It does give, it depends on how much lemon juice you're using too. Right. Yeah, so use less lemon. And also you can try different other fruits or mint as well to kind of make your own like water infusion. There's also companies now that are selling like infused waters, but you can literally do that at home. But if it's too sour, use less lemon. Yeah. And then, yeah, let's go to the next tip. So, yeah, purchase unsweet plant milks or yogurt or unsweetened plant milks and yogurts. So I know when I was growing up, I used to always love to get yogurts that had fruit on the bottom and fillings, but oftentimes that fruit has sugar, a lot of sugar with it, because it almost acts as a preservative. So just get plain and unsweetened yogurt and put your own fruits and fillings on top. I had done that when we had the girls meet up. I just bought plain yogurt and everyone put their own things on top. So instead of buying sweetened yogurt at the grocery store, easy way to cut back on sugar, just buy plain and make your own concoction. And then another tip is if you're craving something sweet, go for fruit. Mixed berries, strawberries, raspberries, blueberries, mango. Those are really, really good fruits that will curb that sweet tooth craving that has a little bit of sugar, but also the fiber and nutrients and vitamin C that our body craves. And then the next tip, which I don't remember, was make your own salad dressing, jams, and spreads to control the sugar. So obviously you might not be able to do this all the time for every single thing in your fridge, right? But what I like to do, thank you. What I like to do is, you know, I'm not saying go home and start making all of this on your own, but what I like to do is if I know I'm gonna eat pancakes every day this week, I probably might make my own syrup, right? So, or if I know I like to have coffee in the morning with creamer, I will go and buy an unsweetened creamer, or I will make my own like coffee at home instead of buying it from Starbucks with a lot of pumps of sugar. So again, this tip is, I put this here in regards to just paying attention to what you consume often. This also goes for things like juice. If you're a person who has to have juice with every single meal, say, okay, for lunch, I'm only gonna drink water, or I'm gonna dilute my juice every time I drink it. Set small, achievable goals, and over time, you will consume less sugar. And then the next tip is read labels and substitute. So this is a whole topic in and of itself because labels are very tricky to understand at times. But an easy thing to keep in mind is that I think I mentioned this last week in regards to smoking. A lot of companies use different names for sugar to trick the consumer so that you don't think you're consuming sugar when you actually are. So some of these scientific names for sugar are molasses, dextrin, cane sugar, fructose, sucrose, maltose, lactose. Anything ending in OSE is sugar. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. So when you're reading a label, if it ends in OS, you know it's just sugar. But these are also some other names that they go by as well. Or you can literally just do a quick Google search, is this sugar? But generally, anything ending in OS is a sugar. And if sugar is listed as the first three ingredients in a product, substitute it because that means that sugar is very abundant in that product, whether it's a chip or juice or whatever. And then the last tip is give yourself grace as you retrain your taste buds. So I really, really want to stress this one too, again, in terms of like anti-diets. Give yourself grace. If you are trying to eat healthier, if you're trying to lose weight, if you're trying to gain weight, give yourself grace because the person you are right now, the taste buds that you have right now, they didn't develop overnight. They are usually, the taste buds that you have is usually can stem back from when you were a child, the things that your parents fed you over time and you developed a liking for. So now you have to retrain yourself, which you can do. You can change your taste buds over time to crave less sugar. So just give yourself grace and trust the process and set small goals that become a part of your lifestyle. So in a nutshell, before I take questions, there should be another word somewhere, a paragraph. Yeah, so in a nutshell, not all sugars are bad, but those that are naturally found in food we want to enjoy more often. So we want to enjoy more complex carbs more often and have simple carbs less often. And try to cook more often at home so you can control your sugar intake and not let the sugar be in control of you. So that is it. I would love to answer any questions because I covered a lot. So any questions? I know Pastor Sharon had a question. Dawn. So again, controversial topic, but in my opinion, if I had to choose between the two, I would use stevia, but stevia is a little bit bitter. If you've ever had it before, it has like a slight bitter taste. Yeah. So what I would say is if you put 3 teaspoons of sugar in your coffee, gradually decrease over time. So do 2 teaspoons of sugar, 1 teaspoon of stevia. Until you get used to that, then cut back more. Do 1 teaspoon of sugar and then 2 teaspoons of stevia. Then after a while, usually it's like 14 days, 21 days, cut back on the stevia. But don't just jump right in because usually you're gonna try it, you're gonna hate it, and you're not gonna stick to it. So, hi. So you're not going, so if I had to choose, I would say stevia is better, but just watch your overall intake of sugar in general, because oftentimes we're like, oh man, I need to not use sugar in my tea, but then we're drinking juice, which in that case, I would say continue using however many amount of sugar in your tea, because it's probably nowhere near as much as the sugar in the juice, and cut back on the juice. So just pay attention to what you have more of, and then start there, and then you'll see the benefits like instantly. Taisha, and yeah, I'll come back to
I was going to say a couple of things. Growing up in a sugar producing community, I know that there are also differences between brown sugar and white sugar. So, for example, when I bake, I don't use white sugar ever. I use sugar period, but if I'm baking, I use brown sugar, which means
Yeah.
I use less sugar.
Right.
So my question was also molasses is like a really, really pure
Right.
Doesn't it have something?
Right. Yeah. So molasses, agave, those things do have benefits. They can have these things called phytochemicals, which can help prevent cancer. But the thing is that it breaks down in the body the same way. So if I had to choose between white sugar or molasses or brown sugar, I would say go for that. But it depends. It's so controversial because it still breaks down in the body in the same way. So if you're a person who, has diabetes, then it doesn't matter, even if it's molasses or white sugar, it's still gonna break down the same way. But you will be giving your body at least some benefits in comparison to eating white sugar. So yeah, no problem.
Juicing and
Smoothies.
juicing is like if I have a NutriBullet and I put fruit in it, what is that juicing or smoothie?
So it depends if your NutriBullet gets rid of the fiber. So I don't know if you've ever seen someone juice. It comes out like a thin liquid, and usually there's the trash. So then that's making a smoothie, right?
Bullet, you put a cup, you put a cup and you put it on top of blender.
And you don't throw away anything, right? So yeah, so that's making a smoothie, right? Yes, that's good because you're getting all the fiber, all the vitamins all in one in comparison to when you're juicing. Usually they put the fruit in, it gets rid of the roughage, and that's getting rid of all the fiber and all that. So that is good. You can do that every day. Oh, and I have another point on that too, but let me ask you.
Is it good to snack on fruit?
Yes, I would prefer you. So this is actually good. This goes into what I was going to say. It's good to snack on fruit, but I would say if you can to pair your fruit with a healthy fat and a healthy protein because that also helps your body to break down the sugar in fruit at a slower pace. So basically this, if you have apples, have like green apples chopped up with peanut butter. That tastes really good. And the peanut butter is gonna act, you just gotta try it, Matt. Matt is like, what? It's good. Right, so if you don't like peanut butter, you can do something else. So you can do, so basically you just wanna, even like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or it's peanut butter again. I'm trying to think of protein. Or like eggs and, what would you put eggs with as a, well, not ketchup, but eggs and, I'm trying to think of a healthy snack. Eggs, string cheese, and an apple. Like that's a good healthy snack that there's sugar in the apple, but there's protein in the eggs, and then the cheese has fats. So your body is gonna break that down slower. So you're gonna have that snack, and it will hold you over faster than if you had like a piece of fruit or a Snicker, where you will have that Snicker, and then I kid you not, in like an hour you're still hungry again. But when you eat like protein and fats and a healthy carb, your body is still breaking that down. So now you don't have to pick on foods because you're still full from that snack. So having fruit is good, but if you can even pair it with a healthy protein or a healthy fat, that's even taking it to the next level. But always, fruit is better than any snack.
But it's not bad to snack on fruit.
It's not bad. Yeah, it's not bad.
A few weeks ago, and I always do this, but my wife looked at me funny because I always have fruit snacks with me.
So fruit snacks are different. Let me throw that.
You said snack on fruit.
So that's different, Matt. That's a candy. That's candy. So let me tell you.
This is how you snack on fruit.
Actually, I'm look at this one. So fruit snacks, they market this to our community too. It's interesting. Fruit snacks, right? Oh wow, they have some vitamins in here. So fruits, I would prefer you snack on an apple in comparison to snacking on this because you're going to eat this and you're still going to be hungry. This is not a sustainable snack, right? So, and this is gonna have more sugar per serving. So in this small amount, you're gonna get, how much sugar is in here? 11 grams of sugar in comparison to if you ate a whole banana, you're gonna get less sugar than eating 2 bananas than you would if you had this, right? And it will sustain you, which is the point of snacking, right? You wanna hold over until you're able to eat dinner or lunch. So, yeah.
Two questions. So, number one, going back to the eggs, the string cheese, and
Apple, right.
what's the best way to make that egg? That's question number one. And number two, what are some of the foods
Okay. Okay. That's a good question. So I might have to make you ask me that second question again, just so I don't forget. But the first question was, what's the best way to make the eggs? And was there something else? Okay. So for that question, it depends. If you're trying to lose weight, boil it. If you're trying to gain weight, fry it. And even in terms of like, and I'll explain. Sharon's like, what? So, so the reason why it's better to boil it if you're trying to gain weight is because it increases in volume, the egg, when you boil it, right? You still have like that egg in the shape of an egg. And so I'm gonna try to keep this simple so it's not complicated. And so when you eat it, you don't get full off of calories. Hopefully this makes sense. You get full off of the volume of food that you eat. So in comparison to when you fry an egg, it's gonna shrink a little bit. You can either add like olive oil or whatever, which is more calories if you wanna gain weight. So, but when you boil an egg, there's no fat, there's no oil, and it's just water and an egg. So if you're trying to lose weight, I would always say boil it because you're gonna stay full longer and it's less calories than if you were to fry the egg. But if you're trying to gain weight, then fry it. Oh, so yeah, so scramble, same thing as like, it's not bad, but if your goal is to stay full longer, boiling is gonna be like the top choice. But scrambling is fine too. Poached egg, that's good, yeah, that's good too. Right, so those are good options, but if you're trying to like stay full, a whole egg boil, that's gonna keep you full longer than frying it.
I'm gonna let you answer her question, but just to say, if you're really gonna do this, almost all regular peanut butter has added sugar.
Right, so you have to look for unsweetened, right, and pure.
Like real, just raw, almost all peanut butter and
Dawn said that's not the good one. Yeah, right. And the thing is, like, for me, like, I love peanut butter, almond butter, so I try to get the unsweetened pure one. Granted, it's not going to taste as sweet, but like I said in the slide, like, over time, you will adjust to that taste, and you'll actually crave it. You can change your taste buds. So even if you don't like something, if you keep feeding your tongue it over time, it can develop an acuity to want it more, and your body too. So always look for unsweetened everything so that you can control that sugar and then use the sugar when you want in coffee or tea or whatever. And then that second question.
which food turns into sugar?
Oh, right, turns into sugar. So it depends on how it's processed. So we have like white pasta, and then now we have a lot of cool pastas. We have whole wheat pasta, we have chickpea pasta now, lentil pasta. So it depends on how it's processed. White bread, white pasta, what else? White anything, enriched anything, white anything is usually processed. They process out the bleached, right? So, so they, the reason, I can't with Matt. So the reason why it's white is because they get rid of the bran, which is the brown part of the grain. And so, so, I, so anything, so white pasta is not as good for your body as whole wheat pasta, or white bread is not as good for your body as whole wheat bread. And that's because whole wheat bread is brown and has the bran that your body now has to take an extra step to break down in comparison to the white bread. It's already broken down. You eat it, your body's like, oh, this is great, less work for me, just digest this quickly, it's gonna be sugar. Whereas your body, when you have whole wheat bread, it's like, okay, we gotta break down the bran, we have to break down the fiber, the nutrients, and right, exactly. Feel without knowledge, right. So if I had to choose whole wheat, anything, whole grain, anything, whole foods in general over processed ones, those are gonna be better for your body. I think you had asked me something else, but I think that probably touches on it, right?
I used to have fried eggs in the morning. I was used to it.
Right. Even if it was yesterday, it's still used to.
What about, because on your, on your first
Home?
slide,
Oh, yes.
your first slide,
You thought of what?
I saw donuts.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
What? Like, is that bad? Like, is that sugar in donuts that bad?
So, donuts, I love donuts, don't get me wrong, love it. But if you ever Google how donuts are made, they are fried and they're made with sugar, a lot of sugar, right? That's why it's sweet. And then they're usually fried. So now we're not even talking about sugar here, but we're also talking about the frying of like the bread and how that can get rid of those nutrients, the vitamins and minerals that our body needs. So it's not that you can't have donuts, but I would say that's something that you have less often, right? Don't do it, yeah, more than once a day. And even just be in moderation, right? Because you can say, I'm not going to do it more than once a day, and then you have like 3 in that once. So you, so you just have it in moderation. If there's anything, if there's anything that you all should take away from anything that I'm saying or anything that I will ever say is give your body what it needs first, and then enjoy the other stuff. So if you know you're eating donuts and whatever, and you're not giving your body the fruits, you're not giving your body the vegetables, the protein, your mind shouldn't even be on a donut because you're not even giving your body the first thing it needs, the nutrients it needs. Right, seek ye first. Yes. And then you can, and honestly, when you start seeking those things first, you're gonna have you're not gonna crave the other things as much as you would because you're probably just gonna be full. And right, so if there's anything to take away, is give your body what it needs first, and then think about the donuts or the chips. But if you're eating chips, consider, just be mindful of, did I have any fruits today? Did I have any vegetables today? And these are things that you're supposed to be having every day, not as a treat, but every day. So, yeah. How late at night should you eat? So, that's a loaded question because it depends on when you go to sleep. Because I like to tell people to eat at least like 2 to 3 hours before they go to bed because you want to give your digestive system time to rest. Just like you're resting your body, your mind. You want to give your system time to rest too, and you're not utilizing that energy, right? So you're going to eat, your body's going to break it down into sugar, and you're going to sleep. You're not working out, you're not, I don't know, walking, you're not doing anything physical where your body's going to use that. So your body is more likely to store it as fat. And so as far as like when is the best time to eat fruit, I would say 2 to 3 hours before you go to sleep, just so that you give your body time to break it down and maybe use it when you're walking around the house. And so it's okay. And so, yeah, 2 to 3 hours before you go to sleep so that you use it. Yeah. Any more questions? All right. So that is all. Thank you. These were great questions. I hope this was helpful. If you want these slides, feel free to let me know and I'll send them to you. And stay tuned for next week's series on sweet poison. Oh, yes. Almost forgot. Okay. So next week, we will be having our youth conference, No Gray Areas, which I'm very excited for. Friday night at 7 o'clock, we will have Say to My Faith, and we'll be having our one and only Pastor Matthew Grieve as a panelist, and also our sister Lachey Creighton. And then on Sabbath, we have Sister Khalifa Gordon as a speaker. So please spread the word, share the flyers, and we hope to see you there.
Can y'all clap your hands for Sister Shannon? Are they still live on YouTube? Are they still live? Okay. Was this helpful to you guys? Was this, y'all want to hear more of this? I'm glad. Are you guys seeing the sweet poison? Are you guys seeing what can feel good? So far, be honest, how many of you have in your mind already made diet changes? Your labor is not in vain, Shannon. I said, how many people in your mind have already made changes?
Honestly, it works. It really is true that after a while you don't miss it. Like you really practice that.
Like, I know
I've
it's
cut out.
incredibly bad for me, but like even talking about it and seeing the donuts, I was telling Maisha about like Krispy Kreme donuts down south, like when they're freshly baked. And I know that that's horrible, but I just.
So it's not about eliminating it. Right. It's not about eliminating it though. It's about having it, but just less often. Right. You gotta, and I said this to someone this week too. You have to care for your inner child, right? So when you were younger, you had your mother feeding you the things that when you had
So it's my mom's fault.
right? No. I'm saying when they were just born, right? You guys were so particular about what they should eat, trying to give them everything that they need to grow. And now as an adult, those things shouldn't be put on the back burner. Now you have to do that for yourself. And so you gave EJ treats, you gave Elijah donuts, but you still made sure that he got what his body needed. So you do that same thing for yourself. Still give yourself the treats, but give yourself what it needs to, what you need to.
All right, come on. Would you clap your hands one more time for? She just stepped all over my toes with the fried eggs. I thought I was losing weight. I didn't cut out bread. I don't eat bread no more. I have that every morning, fried eggs, and I was like, I'm gonna cut out my carbs. I don't eat no bread, and lo and behold, the fried eggs was making me fatter. All right. Yeah, I didn't cut out everything, but bread was like I don't really eat that much bread. Yeah. I don't eat bread unless it's like with pizza or a sandwich. Yeah, that's it. Anyway, I thank you guys. Let's clap our hands one more time for Sister Shannon. I hope this is helping you guys, and I hope that are y'all learning anything from Sweet Poison at all this week too? Sweet Poison.
Somebody who's not of this church says Pastor Matthew's sermon was a word that the nation needs to hear. It was divinely inspired.
Oh, Yahweh be praised. Yahweh be praised. Yahweh be praised. All right, benediction is already. One more time, if y'all get a chance, love on Sister Shannon from a distance. She came so prepared. I wanna thank her for her effort. It's just neatly done. Y'all see how that's done? Came with slide. Sister Maisha presented something the other day. It had a graph. It had a chart. It had statistics. She had the statistics of nations and stuff like that. I just like when people go the extra mile in whatever they do for Yahweh. So let's just love on them, all right? Thank you, guys. Brother Mike is in the building. Y'all love on Brother Mike.